Comments from Fed Chair Jerome Powell lifting the S&P 500 to record highs Wednesday before it paired some of those gains. Let's get some views on that as well as on pot stocks from our friend Ross Gerber of Gerber Kawasaki, who, by the way, just recently took a trip to the NYSE, rang the opening bell upon the launch of his new ETF advisor shares, Gerber Kawasaki. Congratulations, Ross.
Thank you. It was quite an experience, actually.
Yeah, it came at a time of big rains, too. Glad you made it out here. Anyway, Ross, Powell said that any move to pull back support for the economy would, in his words, be still a ways off. Treasury yields fell after that. So should investors continue to believe Powell and keep buying stocks, even though we got, inflation data yesterday and today at the consumer and wholesale levels really spiking?
Yeah, I mean, I think Powell really gets this market better than a lot of the older market participants that are still going by the sort of expectation and playbook from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And they don't realize that over the last 10, 20 years, the biggest issue we've been fighting is deflation. So Powell knows full well that the Fed, can take any simple action and immediately slow the economy and get rid of any growth or inflation. And they're probably rightfully much more concerned about the risks of moving too early versus the risk of waiting too long. So we think they're going to err on the side of waiting too long, which makes a lot of sense. And it's obviously much better for investors in the economy.
Investors seem to be believing him. I took a look at the components of your new ETF, Ross, and I noticed that you have a big stake in cannabis. Well, today, Senator Chuck Schumer released that draft bill that aims to legalize cannabis at the federal level. So why are pot stocks down today?
That's a great question. I think it's mostly about the fact that the time frame for this is a little bit murky, and what will actually happen is still a little bit murky. So I still see this as incredibly positive news because now we have an actual, movement from the government towards this direction with a goal of really to do it within the next year. But when you look at the proposals, it's just ideal for the cannabis companies. It's really a full legalization package, and also with what we consider really important elements of social equity in the package as well. So we're very, very bullish on the sector. It's a major component of GK in the cannabis sector, and it's the things that used to be illegal. And we expect the cannabis market to continue to grow rapidly over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, Ross, the ETF MJ, which tracks cannabis, that has risen almost about 27% this year. Is it too late to get into pot stocks at this point?
Yeah, and we don't recommend MJ because it's mostly Canadian operators. The real play is a symbol MSOS, which are U.S. cannabis MSOs or multi-state operators. That's where the opportunity is. That's where our ETF is invested in MSOS, and it gives you exposure. They're actually Canadian companies that are U.S. companies that aren't allowed to list. So one of the first things that would happen with legalization or a safe banking act is companies would be able to list on the New York Stock Exchange like cannabis companies in Canada, and that would be a huge boost to these assets, just that alone. So there's a huge opportunity, but it's an MSOS.
All right. And so it's not too late as long as it's MSOS, you're saying?
No, right, exactly.
Okay, Ross. Also, as for your portfolio, any buys or sells you've been doing lately?
Yeah, I think one of the things we've been adding to is our real estate section of the portfolio with the improving economy and the way that real estate's been booming, whether it's home builders like Lennar or whether it's real estate owners like Prologis, which is logistics warehouses, or MGM Growth Properties, which are casinos in Vegas, as well as we've very, very bullish on the overall sector. So whether you're building homes, owning properties to rent, and or other types of assets like hotels and casinos, it's really a great time to be involved in real estate. And our position in Blackstone as well gives us exposure to all types of real estate funds and investments as well. So Blackstone is something we've also added to recently.
And I might also add that real estate stocks have done really well this month.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ross. Appreciate it. Our thanks to Ross Gerber of Gerber Kawasaki. I'm Fred Katayama in New York. This is Reuters.